Hey friend, welcome to my podcast, The Fit Soul. I'm your host, Amy Ramsey. In this podcast, we will be discussing soul-filled strategies to unleash your confidence, increase your energy, and all the things healthy lifestyle. If you're a Christian woman who is ready to reach your God-given potential, walk worthy of your calling with abundant joy and energy, girlfriend, you are in the right spot. I mean, you only have one life to live. You might as well maximize it. Buckle in, and thanks for listening. All right, welcome back to the show, The Fit Soul. All right, I've got my good friend and crazy smart, soon-to-be doctor, functional nutritional therapy practitioner, mouthful, Tanya Pennington-Miller. Welcome to the show. It's Miller time, baby.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So excited that you're here, and I love what you do. Tanya is actually, she is a very good friend of mine, but she's also my functional practitioner. I've worked with a lot of different practitioners in the past, and she makes things so clear. It was one of the first times that I'm like, oh, okay, I understand my labs. Oh, okay, I understand what I need to do and not feel as overwhelmed. Oftentimes I feel really, really overwhelmed. So Tanya, I'm so excited that you're here today. And I know that this show is going to drive a lot of value. So ladies, if you're struggling with your hormones, if fat loss is a goal for you, if you're over the age of 40 and hot flashes, low libido, weight gain around the middle, Tanya is your go-to. Am I right or am I right, Tanya?
You're right. You're right. That's who I help.
Oh, exactly. So Tanya, you're going to share with us some tips on what we can do. And what I find fascinating is your story of how you got started into this space, how that even came about. So can you share with us your backstory?
Yeah, I can. So yes, it is a mouthful. I'm a functional nutritional therapy practitioner. But really what I do is I'm a hormone and fat loss specialist. And I use DNA and blood chemistry to help women who are over 35 to lose stubborn weight and get their energy back. And what I like to say is that I step in where your doctor has stepped out. Okay. And I'm talking to those of you who have been to the doctor and they've told you that your labs are normal. Okay. That's where I step in. Now I help women in my DNA Reset for Fat Loss Academy, which launches 3 times per year. Now I have a history of working with women one-on-one. That is exactly what my practice Nourish to Thrive is built upon. However, I'm currently in the process, as you mentioned, of obtaining my doctorate in clinical nutrition. That fills up my schedule. And so I created this group program, this academy. I call it an academy because this is an 8-week intensive where I give you some serious tools to have lasting change. Okay. Now, my background began in the health and fitness industry when I was competing in figure competitions, dating back. I'm going to date myself right now, but dating back to 2002 is when I started competing. Then I switched to competing in CrossFit, running half marathons, Spartan races. I mean, anywhere from 3 to 30 miles. Okay. Now, after doing this all for so many years, I did this throughout, literally my entire 20s. I found myself ending up being diagnosed with adrenal exhaustion. Okay. We can talk a little bit about what that is, but that led to a hypothyroid diagnosis. So my thyroid was underactive. I had low testosterone. I had low progesterone, hair loss, a lower belly pooch. I was gaining weight, not crazy weight, but with my background and what I do, I know how to take body fat off of a person, including myself, but I just was watching the scale kind of creep up. Okay. This diagnosis that I got, though, was not easy because just like all of you, I went to my conventional doctor and I said, run everything, run my labs. I got to know what's wrong. I have zero energy. I have zero motivation. I don't desire my husband, who I love and I'm newly married to. I could be roommates with him and be just fine. I need some help. And so I remember walking in that day because my results were in and I'm like, this is it. I'm going to get the answers. I cannot. And it's pretty bad when you're wanting something, right? You're wanting your doctor to get, but you're looking for answers, anything at this point. And I will never forget, she tossed my results at me and she said, your labs are perfect. I wish I had your labs. You're going to live to be 100 years old. And I was devastated. She said, your vitamin D came back a little bit low. So, take some vitamin D and you should be good. So I went on my own. I found a functional practitioner and I started my own healing journey. And today I'm still very active, but rather than competing in competitions and those sorts of things, you're going to find me mountain biking. Dirt biking is the most recent thing I do with my husband. And I train at home in our gym. So I'm no longer doing the crazy intense. We'll get into this too. My DNA says, you probably don't want to be doing all of that competitive stuff. And those are the kind of answers that your DNA can give you. But it's through my own healing journey that I created a roadmap to help other women who find themselves in my shoes. There's a lot of women who find themselves in my shoes, and I help to get them the same results that I've gotten to today. So that's what I do. That's kind of my backstory, and I'm excited to be doing what I do today.
Well, it's such an important work that you do, because the whole hormones are so elusive, and where do you start? And like you said, you go to the doctor, and the doctor might put you on, to put you on hormone replacement therapy. And I think we both have some strong opinions about that. That's not the foundation of overall healing. It's like so many times the doctors put a Band-Aid. Oh, you're struggling with anxiety or whatever. Here's a pill. It's like we want to give a pill for everything instead of just analyzing our own lifestyle. And for functional nutrition, and as for me as an integrative nutrition health coach, the foundation of what we do is food. It is nutrition. What are we putting into our bodies? And then how are we treating our bodies and the environment and all of that? All of these things are such big, they matter so much, don't they?
Yeah, they really do. I think the two things that I hear, and this is just with the group of women that I work with, right? The women who come to me, the two things that I hear prescribed the most are antidepressants and birth control. And that's really just your doctor saying, like, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you're saying you feel this way, so here you go.
Yeah. I know in my own personal journey, I had to get to a place of when I started to learn about integrative health. I was working out so much. I was training people, and I just love, you and I are very like-minded on this. Get us outside, get us active. We will probably not want to come back inside. That's just who we are, right? And competitors as well. So I was overtraining. And Tanya, it was when I hit my I think around 43, 44, I started to think to myself, it was like, duh, but I mean, it was an aha moment. I was like, now I'm doing all of this right now, but I don't know that I can age with this. I don't know that this is a longevity plan for me. And that's when I started to hit some hormone dysregulation as well. And had to make lifestyle changes though. Yes, you can give people medicines, but it was, for me, that's when I started to understand functional medicine. That's when I understand functional, like how to, okay, I can't continue to train like this because it's actually causing inflammation in my body and it's causing pain in my body, along with not having enough of the proper nutrition that I needed. And I learned so much from your fat loss from DNA. And it really actually changed the way I'm training right now, by the way.
Amazing. I love to hear that. I love it because, I mean, for me, I had to be stopped in my tracks to really open my eyes to the fact that I'm not invincible. I mean, truly. I mean, I was in my competition years, I was waking up at 3:30 to get to, my coach who lived 45 minutes away, to get back home, to let my dogs out, feed them, do all of that, go work a 10-hour day, come back home, work out again on my rower to get more cardio in, maybe be in bed by 10:30. I mean, I was getting maybe 4 or 5 hours of sleep. And so, and there's other women that maybe they're not doing all of those things, but there's other reasons why they're only getting, 5 hours of sleep. And without a minimum of 7, we can't thrive.
Yeah.
We cannot thrive.
I love that. And I know you take your sleep seriously. I do too. Actually, this is funny. Tanya and I were on a trip we were at a mastermind retreat in Southern California, and we were roomies, which was perfect. But I thought I liked it cold. And she's like, I need it cold in here. And Tanya's just, listen, what you see is what you get from her. And she's very authoritative when she talks. Like, she just knows what she's talking about, y'all. And usually she's right most of the time. She's like, I need it cold in here. I'm like, perfect. Girl, that still was the coldest ever. Like, I was in the bed going,
I remember, so we get there and I remember thinking like, crap, we never, like, I can't believe I just agreed to room with her without discussing temperature first, because like some people can't, right? Like, and I get it. Some people just need like the heater cranked up and I just can't. And I literally thought, well, we can always, one of us can go get another room if needed. And so I'm like, so how do you sleep at night? Like, what temperature do you like? Meat locker? Perfect.
Well, it wasn't really an option, but it was fine. Like, I could have gotten a sweatshirt. I mean, I got it from you. You're like, I have to have it cold. I'm like, okay. But at the same time, you were able to drive in. I flew in. We were in Southern California. You're like, do you want me to bring some lemons for you? Do you want me to bring mineral salt for our water? I'm like, yes. Oh my gosh. So she kept us fueled with that, but it was a good thing. But so sleep is so crucial to our sleep overall. And I love the way that you say you're a sleep princess. You have to be a sleep princess now.
Yeah, I have to be. I mean, it is 8:30 and I'm okay, getting up, doing whatever I need to do before I go to bed, giving the dogs their treats, turning everything down. I'm in bed before 9 and I'm asleep at 9.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so my alarm is set for 5, but I generally wake up before that. That's just kind of like, in case you don't wake up before the alarm goes off, here's an alarm. But I generally wake up before that. Now that took a lot of time. It took a lot of training to get to that place, but I'll never go back, because I tell you what, those days you have a early flight and you don't live close to the airport, and we, in California, we are about 45 minutes from the airport. And so with those early flights, we've got to get up early. I tell you what, those early mornings, like you got to get up at 3.
Yeah.
And I didn't go to bed at 9, right? Because I'm packing, because I'm, going to tell myself, and I'm last minute and, all of those things. I wake up and the first thing I think about is like, I'm hungry. Like, I want to eat. And I acknowledge that over the years, where it's like, man, if I wake up super early, why am I so hungry? Like, I'm thinking about food at 5 a.m. I mean, that's just nuts, but it has everything to do with messing with that circadian rhythm. Yeah. And so now you're producing insulin at times that you wouldn't normally be producing insulin. You're producing cortisol because your body's like, whoa, this is completely off of what we normally do. And so you can actually affect your hunger levels that way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. And I'm the same way. And I've always thought it was because, well, I've been up for 8 hours by the time it's 7 a.m. So that's why I'm hungry. But no, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. Well, Tanya, let me ask you this. When you, like, as our listeners are listening to this, and maybe they're in a hormonal shift, maybe they're in that place of, oh, their hormones are crazy and they're trying to figure it out right now. And they've maybe been to the doctor, like you're talking about, and the doctor's like, oh, it's just normal. I can't stand that doctors. I hate to, like, let me back up just a little bit. I can't stand when we normalize things that we can actually shift and we can do better with. Like it's like busting the myth of aging. I meet so many women who just kind of think, well, now that I'm in my 40s, I'm just going to be a little bit flabby, and this is what happens. And then when you're in your 50s, you're heavier. Because the truth of the matter is, and this is not condemnation, you guys, this is not being condemning, but it is very rare you see a 60-year-old woman with a flat belly. It is just rare, but you still see them. I see them. Do you?
Yeah.
They're doing it's possible. We don't have to get fat and get older. I'm just saying, I'm just going to put that out there. Right. Okay. So what would you give some tips for fat loss and hormone and aging, and to do this in a way that is, in a way that's healthy?
Let me say this really quick too. You mentioned about doctors. Mm-hmm. Because I know you and I know that we need doctors and we love doctors. And one of the things I want to say is this. Yes, go to your doctor to rule things out.
Yes.
You don't have disease. You don't have this. You don't have that. If to them your labs look normal, then take that and say, okay, great. So I'm not dying, and that's great news. Now let me go find somebody to help me optimize. And the problem is that we're going to our doctors to optimize, and they just were never taught to help us do that. It just wasn't a part of their curriculum. Their curriculum was identify disease, identify pharmaceutical. here you go. And that's just what they were taught. They didn't have nutrition. They didn't, these aren't things that they knew. So they're doing their job. And so now you take that information, don't be upset with them because they've done what they are supposed to do. They're telling you that you're not dying. And then you go and find a practitioner and say, okay, now I want to feel like my absolute best. And so that's how that process should look.
I'm so glad that you went back and said that 100%. In fact, this year, I've told you, as I'm turning 50, I went and I got caught up on all of my doctor's appointments, every single one of them. And I go to the gynecologist every single year. And I do all of those things. And I have a functional practitioner to help me optimize my health. Yeah. So thank you for pulling that into. So let's talk about optimal health then. What are some tips for our listeners to give them optimal health that they can start to take, that they can control? You can empower them with this information, Tanya. What would be like maybe your number one tip?
You know what? I'm going to give you this because it's something that has been a game changer for me over the past, I will say about 4 months or so since starting to really implement it. I've dabbled, but since really implementing it, and it's one of those things that I think I dabbled for a long time because you kind of are like, okay, yeah, it sounds good. I'll try it. But once you really start committing to it, it makes a huge difference. And I think that your audience will benefit from this because of who you are. So, they say in life, we attract people who are like us, right? So if your listeners are a lot like you, then I know that they can utilize this. And this is going to be breathing techniques. Mm-hmm. And the reason I say this for your audience is because I know you have an audience of go-getters, overachievers, driven women, go, in whatever facet of life. That could be being a mom, it could be a businesswoman, it could be both, it could be, and so we go and we go and we go and we go and we go, and we're living consistently in our sympathetic state, which is our fight or flight. Now, fight or flight is there's a saber-toothed tiger coming. I better go. And so the way God designed us is if there's a saber-toothed tiger coming, you need to not think of anything else except running from that saber-toothed tiger. So your body is designed to dump sugar into your bloodstream so that you have energy to run from that saber-toothed tiger. You shut down all of your sensory. So you no longer can poop when you're in your sympathetic state. Mm-hmm. You actually are hardly even hungry when you're in your sympathetic state. You cannot digest food in your sympathetic state. And the unfortunate thing is we're just living in that state. We're existing in that fight or flight. We're laying in bed at night. And if your mind is going crazy when you're laying in bed and you can't sleep, guess what's happening? Your body is releasing cortisol. That cortisol is dropping sugar into your bloodstream so that you can go run for the saber-toothed tiger. But you're not going and running. You're laying in bed and you're thinking. And then we wonder, why am I gaining weight? Why can't I sleep at night? Well, your body has all sorts of neurotransmitters and hormones running through it to help you go run. And you're trying to sleep. And so one of the things that we can do, these breathing techniques will actually help us tap into our parasympathetic state. And so every single morning, I do not even get out of bed. Now, I will get up to pee. So I can't do this if I have to pee. I'll get up to pee, I get back in bed, and I take 120 deep breaths before I get out of bed. I'm not saying to start there. Don't start there. I don't recommend starting there. It's been a progression. Start with 5, literally. Start with 5 deep breaths. Think of your body. It's just been laying there all night. Not much has been happening. Your lymphatic system is just kind of blah. Your oxygen and carbon dioxide is just kind of blah. You've just been laying there. But if we can get really big, deep breaths in and out in the morning, then we have this beautiful exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide happening. I'm telling you, when you are done with those breathing exercises, you're joyous. You're like, I just feel good. I feel amazing this morning. But you can also, so start at 5 and build up.
Yeah.
10 to 20 to 60.
Yeah.
I'm at 120 right now, but also during your day. So I set my alarm on my phone for every 2 hours so that I can breathe literally. And what I do during the day is I'll breathe in for 5 seconds, hold that breath for 5 seconds, and release that breath for 10. So the goal is the amount of time that you breathe in and you hold, you want the release time to be double. So that might look like breathing in for 3, holding for 3, and releasing for 6. But the 5, 5, 10 breathing is something that I'll do throughout the day. And it's my check-in. It's like, where are you at right now? How are you feeling? Are you in we're supposed to live in our parasympathetic state, our rest and digest, and we're supposed to tap into our sympathetic state, but we're doing the opposite. And so we literally have to hack our way into our parasympathetic state.
Which is so, this is such a good reminder. It's like I have to be reminded of this. I'm like, oh my gosh, why am I not doing box breathing? Like I you know how the right things to do, but practicing them to where they become a habit is really crucial. So the number one tip that you want to give our listeners is breathe, just breathe, get out of the sympathetic nervous system and get into your parasympathetic nervous system. This is something that is free. Ladies, hello. I know, right?
It's free.
It's free. It's free and it's crucial. This is something you can do while you're driving, or if you're in a traffic jam, or you're on your way to pick up the kids at carpool and you're feeling really anxious and stressed, like stop and breathe.
Yeah. And you know what, when you do that 5, 5, 10 breathing, before you do it, just if you're wearing a Apple Watch, a Garmin, whatever, take a look at your heart rate, just acknowledge it, get through the breathing. So do the 5, 5, 10 breathing, just do maybe like 5 rounds of that. And check your watch again, and you'll watch your heart rate actually decrease.
Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. So tip number 1 is to breathe. Do you have another tip that you want to add to this before what's the other?
What I'll say is, I think we all know nutrition is incredibly important, right? I mean, that's foundational to what I do. But the other thing that I want to talk about is the things that we are surrounded with in our daily lives. We cannot be perfect in this area, okay? What I like to say is we need to lighten our load from toxins. So, and it's interesting because you can tell people, oh, I'm doing this to reduce toxins in my life. And sometimes you'll have people say like, well, we can't get rid of everything. No, we can't. But we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We do what we can do, okay? Right. And so paying attention to the things around our house, so our laundry detergent, our dishwashing detergent, all of these things that we're using because it's what our parents use, it's what our grandparents use. Like I used Tide up until about maybe a year ago. It was my husband's favorite. It's just what I always used growing up. Start to switch some of those things out because we're surrounded by xenobiotics. We're surrounded by xenoestrogens. And it's very dangerous to our bodies because they come in and they sort of act like estrogen in our body, but they can't perform the job of estrogen. They're kind of like this doppelganger to estrogen, but it does really bad things in our bodies. And then we have to be able to detoxify it. Now, for myself personally, and I believe for you too, on our DNA, our DNA says, hey, you're not going to detoxify very well. Just the way that you're made, the way your mama and daddy made you, you're not going to detoxify very well. So you need to focus on that. And it's going to be very important that you lighten your load. So how can I lighten my load? Oh, I'm almost out of Tide. Let me replace that. I'm almost out of dishwashing detergent. Let me replace that. And just start replacing things that you're surrounded with toxin-free items. This can go to your makeup, to your face wash, just everything that's around you. If you're a big candle burner in your house, switch it out for some, organic essential oils. Get it, some diffusers for your home. All of this can feel like, wow, it's overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be because you just do one thing at a time. As you run out of something, you replace it. You run out of something else, you replace it. And in the end, it ends up making a big difference.
Yeah, that's so good too, because I think that's where we lose a lot of people is that they actually get overwhelmed in the process. And then you just, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's a really good plan of as you run out of things, then replace it with non-toxin items. Okay. So Tanya, I know so whenever you guys are listening to this, she may or may not be having a class coming up soon, but she has a lot of stuff. You're going to want to grab her freebie from here. But one of the most exciting things that I did recently with Tanya is I did my DNA genetic testing, and it was for fat loss, and it was fascinating. Oh my gosh, the information was absolutely fascinating, and that this is like some of the latest, greatest to help you lose fat, right? This is some of the, it is cutting edge science. So can you tell us a little bit about what this is and how this can work for the listeners?
Yeah. So what I have done for years in my practice is I run labs. I run comprehensive labs far beyond what your conventional medicine doctor runs. And we can accomplish so much just by running your labs. But I still felt like there were holes. There were more answers that I wanted, like what truly made this woman's results different from this woman's results. And so that's when I started to incorporate DNA. And the study of nutrigenomics, it's still pretty new. I mean, I think it's starting to become more popular, but the study
of what? Wait. What did you say? This
nutrigenomics.
Nutrigenomics. Okay.
Yeah, nutrigenomics. So, how are the things that we eat and our surroundings, how they can actually affect our DNA. And here's the nice thing about the DNA panel that I run is no matter what comes back on this DNA panel, there's something we can do about it. So nobody's going to get, a death report by getting their DNA results back. What we're taking a look at, we're taking a look at your DNA epigenetically speaking, meaning we can't change our DNA. However, we can change how our DNA expresses itself. So my DNA says, Tanya, you are likely to have type 2 diabetes. I'm far from it, right? Because of how I eat, because of how I live, my insulin, my fasting glucose, my A1C, all of those numbers are beautiful because that portion of my DNA is not expressing itself because of my lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And so we look at all of these things and we say, okay, your DNA says this about you. So here's what you're going to want to focus on. My DNA also says that I'm a professional fat maker. So I make fat and I store fat like a professional, right? So
yeah, mine said the same thing. And you know what? For years, I've said there is a 400-pound woman that wants to come out of this body. I will not let it. Oh, I'm not going to let her with my lifestyle, but I have said the same exact thing. And it was so almost validating to see. I was like, I thought it was.
Yes. And so we have answers. Yes. And there's something about that is, having that validation to know I knew it was harder for me. And those are the cards that were dealt, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so that's fine. But we have that information. We have those answers. But we can also find out, are you likely to be better at endurance type exercise? Are you likely to be better at, power, resistance training, sprinting, right? What is your recovery like? Do you need more recovery than the person next to you? And I do. And so, being in my 40s now, that's something that I focus on. My big workouts are only every other day now. And in the in-between days, it's sauna and it's cold plunge.
Yeah.
And then, of course, and that doesn't mean I don't do anything. We take a walk on our big, beautiful property here. I take a walk with my 4 dogs. And so I still get movement on the in-between days, right? But you can have this information to know, because if I were to hit it hard every single day like I used to, my inflammation is going to be sky high. And that's when you start to see the scale sort of play those tricks on you. And you go, wait, why did the scale go up by 2 pounds? That doesn't make sense. Well, inflammation doesn't make sense.
Yeah. No, that was so good that you said that. And that's what I learned in the course, and learning my DNA was oxidative stress was my number one. What did they call it? They called it your maybe struggle areas or whatever was oxidative stress.
Yeah, your variants. Oh yeah. The 3, your 3 primary.
Right. And so it really did change the way I worked out. So I'm doing less HIIT training. I'm doing way more strength training now, and more moderate, not even like heavy. And what's so interesting is that you'll hear different trainers talk about, or different, even experts. Oh, you have to do this and you have to lift this and you have to, it's like, no, you don't. You guys, we're so wonderfully created. You are so uniquely created by your creator. And bioindividuality says that what works for others may not work for you, and really understanding that about yourself. So finding that happy medium of where do I feel good? Where am I pleased with my results? And I'm reducing that inflammation now. So it's so really liberating to understand that.
Yeah. There's something about having those answers. It just allows you to, and then putting your roadmap together to know, like, okay, so here's what I'm going to do. You can kind of know, am I okay to eat carbohydrates, a certain amount of carbohydrates? Should I eat less carbohydrates? And based on my DNA, I know to eat low glycemic. So I don't eat no carb, but I didn't need my DNA to tell me that I can't eat a lot of carbs. That I already knew. But I eat low glycemic. So I do eat a certain amount of, high quality, of course, vegetables and butternut squash and sweet potatoes and yams and those sorts of things. But you can get that kind of information. Now, somebody who's far from, have no likelihood of type 2 diabetes, you might be able to eat some more carbohydrates, but you still also have to listen to, like, what does your experience tell you?
Yeah.
What has actually happened,
That's right.
when you eat in that way. So
I didn't need the DNA genetic testing to tell me that pasta is not my friend.
Right.
You guys, it's not that I can't have pasta. I can. And sometimes I have it on my birthday, but usually I don't, because literally my entire body gets bloated with pasta. Rice is nowhere in my vocabulary, like no rice, no bueno, no. Those two, I just can't handle it. But I didn't need that test to know, but it verified what I already knew, is that low glycemic for me is the way to go. I feel better. I feel energized. I get so exhausted after I eat. Like if I eat sushi, oh my gosh, I am down for the count. I need a nap after. Yeah.
Well, here's the important thing about that, Amy. The reason that if I eat pasta, if I eat rice, if I eat this, then I feel this way. It's because you take care of yourself. It's because you eat low glycemic. Because there can be people listening who say, no, I feel great when I eat pasta, no problems. But if you've actually never gone through an elimination diet, a detox, for a certain period of time, and you haven't cleared out the white noise, sometimes that bloating and all of those things have become your norm, and you actually don't know. You don't have the ability to listen to what your body's telling you. So for that reason, in the academy, we also go through, as you know, a 21-day detox, so that we can just pull out things. And here's what happens. So dairy is one of the things we pull out during the 21 days. Do I think nobody should eat dairy? No, I don't think that at all. I think that you should listen to what your body tells you about whether you should eat dairy or not. And so you go through the 21 days, and I'm just using dairy as an example, but you pull that dairy out. Now, what I have you do is I say, okay, after the 21 days, do you desire to put dairy back in? Because if you don't, and you feel amazing now, then don't add it back in. But if you have that desire, okay, let's have you eat that dairy. I want you to have a portion of dairy 3 times a day for 1 to 2 days. And then I want you to pay attention to what your body tells you. Now, the symptoms can all be different. It can be congestion. It could be joint pain. It could be constipation. It can be bloating. I mean, there's just so many different things. And you might go, wow, dairy has never done that to me before. Well, here's what happens. There are certain foods that you might be sensitive to, but our bodies are just so incredible. Your body will actually start to protect you from that food. So your body will say, here she goes eating cheese again. So we need to actually start to produce some antihistamines to protect her from herself. We need to start producing some antibodies to protect her. And let's even produce some endorphins to give her that feel-good feeling. And so now she thinks dairy makes her feel good. But once you pull the dairy out for 21 days, that's not very long. It's long enough for your body's defenses to be down. So now when you reintroduce that dairy and your body goes, whoa, we weren't there to defend her, that's when you're going to see the symptoms arise. If you don't have any symptoms, congratulations, eat your cheese.
Absolutely. Or pasta or whatever.
Oh, yes.
I think, but I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think everyone should be off gluten. What do you think?
Okay. So
I know that was a general statement.
Yeah. My blanket statement is yes. I will say this. I've got some colleagues who actually do very well with milling their own grains.
Okay.
Now, when you actually buy the seed grains themselves and you mill it yourself, and then you make the bread items, I see women do very well with that.
Okay.
The bread that, even, I don't care if you go to the store and it says whole, amazing wheat, all of these things. It's not, in order for them to make these items shelf stable, they've actually had to pull out so many nutrients that there's really no nutrients left in there. And there's just an abundance of gluten in there. And so buying things like that, I do think that we should not be eating gluten. How many people are willing to mill their own grains? I don't know, but I have seen that be, and then what happens is, say you mill your own grains and you make your own bread, it's actually more fulfilling. You actually will be satiated from a slice of your own, milled bread. Bread does not, I'm sorry. So if I were not, a professional in this industry like I do, and I just went down a completely different path, the only food group I would eat would be bread.
You're right.
Okay?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, that's just cookies for you, bread for me. I mean, I would just do it to it. And what I know with bread is if I have one piece, I want more. That's just all there is to it.
Sure. Yeah.
But if you can actually get a high quality piece, you cannot buy it from anywhere, but if you make it yourself, it will actually fill you up. And that's how you know that and I'm using bread because that's such a gluten containing item. We know they've pulled so many nutrients out of it because it does not satiate.
Yep. Okay, you guys, I think you can see that Tanya is an incredible wealth of information. What she teaches is foundational level functional health for you. And it starts really with nutrition as the foundation, but it's also so many other things, so many other variables that we've discussed briefly in here, from sleep, proper sleep, to breathing, which also would, you didn't say it, but it's part of stress management, right? It's part of our lifestyle, our overall life, and in our environment, from what we're putting on our body to what we're washing our clothes with. It's such a process. So it can be overwhelming if you're just stepping into the space of going, hey, wait a minute, I really want to optimize my health. It can be overwhelming if you allow it to be overwhelming. But if you decide that you want to start small. If that's the way that you want to start. Some people are the type of personalities. I don't know about you, Tanya, but when I found out that my health wasn't as optimized as I thought, and my body looked so amazing, and it looks good now. I don't want to sound like, oh my gosh, I'm not thankful for a nice physique now, but I had such low body fat, I was really underweight. I didn't realize it then, but I didn't have the energy. The energy I had was drinking coffee all day long or Diet Cokes. And I wasn't aware. I didn't know what I didn't know. And when I learned it, it was like this 180-degree pivot. Immediately, I changed everything about my nutrition. I changed everything except for my lifestyle. I had to learn that balance of that. So start somewhere. Start with the breathing techniques that she recommended on here. Start with maybe like she recommended, you ran out of your Tide detergent. So now you go and research another one that's safer for your body. So just make some progress forward, because it matters for your longevity. Even the right now, but for us to be functioning, intelligent, independent, 70-year-old, 80-year-old, this really, 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 really matters, doesn't it, Tanya?
Oh, it matters so much. So much. We've all seen 70 and we've seen 70.
Yeah.
And we know which one we want to be.
That's right. And you're worth it. I just want to share that with you. You're worth it. It takes an investment of time. It always takes an investment of money. And I know, Tanya and I, we both work with women, and you know what? Make the investment in yourself, because you're going to pay it now or you're going to pay it later. You're going to pay for it one way or the other.
Yeah. I think one of the other amazing things is when you do invest in yourself, I think one of the most fulfilling things about that is the amount of people you end up inspiring around you.
That's right.
Just not because you're out preaching, but just because of the changes that you're making, you're feeling better, you're more productive, and people see it. What
Well,
are you
there's
doing?
research around that too. Like we all have a ripple in the world, and that when one person starts to make healthier habits and starts to lose weight, then it will help others to do it around them. But you know what's really interesting, Tanya, is the same is true about if you fall out of healthy habits. If you gain weight, you will help other people gain weight. One time I was sharing that statistic on something, and somebody was like, "I don't know what to get everybody fat." I'm like, "No, that's not what I mean."
But it's the whole, and my dad taught me this in high school, and I can't remember exactly why he was having this conversation with me at the time, but he was having the "you are who you hang with" conversation, right?
Yes,
and it's just that. And he, I think, was telling me it's you take the income of the 5 people around you, take the average, there's yours. But we can say that about a lot of different things, right? And it's yeah. So we want to be the person to inspire the positive change.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Girl, I love you so much. Oh my gosh.
Always love talking to you.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Always such good conversations. Okay, you guys, I took Tanya's DNA, Fat Loss for DNA course. You can check the show notes and find out, get on, if she doesn't have it available right then, get on her wait list. It fills up, the slots go very quickly. So I highly recommend. It is an intensive, and it starts as nutrition as the foundation. However, you're going to learn so much information. And so I highly recommend that. And I think, Tanya, you've got a free gift for the listeners as well.
I do. So if you go to my website, TanyaPennington-Miller.com. So I actually have a current freebie up there right now, but I'll tell you this too. Check it again. I'm in the process of getting a new freebie up that is going to be even more valuable for you. But hop over there now, grab my How to Eat for Hormone Health guide. And then coming up, I'm going to get into more like really meaty food prep. Like, how do you food prep? We hear about this all the time, but how the heck do we actually do it? So I'm going to have that freebie coming up as well. So just check my website. You'll see it up there. So that's TanyaPenningtonMiller.com. And then also you can always get all of this information on my Instagram, which is very similar to my website, Tanya.Pennington.Miller.
Yes. And we'll put all of this in the show notes so you can click on it here. And you want to follow her on Instagram. Tanya always shares highly valuable, high level information, you guys. So definitely go follow her on Instagram. And I think you're on Facebook too, but I think Instagram's your jam, right? Follow her on Instagram, go grab her freebie. And if you grab her freebie that she was just talking about, that will put you in her email list, and she sends out wonderful emails. It'll also alert you to when the next Fat Loss for DNA program will be coming up, and you want to take that class, but you don't want to hesitate. Those spots fill up very quickly, and you're going to want to jump right in. So Tanya, I love you so much, sis. Such an honor to have you here on the show. Thank you for being on our podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I love you.
I love you too. Okay, you're coming back soon, so we'll get you back on soon, and we'll talk maybe a little bit more about the DNA part, because that's so cool. I'd love to talk more about that as well. Would you like to come back?
Let's do it. Yeah, I'm in.
Okay. All right, guys. We'll see you on the next show. Bye.
Girlfriend, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I'm so honored you come back every week and that you share the Fit Soul podcast with your friends and family. Every time you share my podcast on Instagram or Facebook, I do a little happy dance. Make sure you subscribe to the Fit Soul podcast where you'll never miss an episode. You can go to Podcast, Apple, Stitcher, and Spotify and subscribe so you'll never miss an episode release. And just know, I truly love bringing you excellent content and great guests to provide you motivation and faith inspiration to help you walk worthy. And one of the ways you can help me is to go and leave the Fit Soul podcast a review. If you have just a moment, would you please go over and leave a review for the Fit Soul podcast? Thank you again. I love you. And here is your reminder. You are worthy. Until next time. Bye-bye.